coping with the heat.
The timer on this?
It should have been.
Because it just turned 6 o'clock, of course. No,
Is that what?
I don't know.
Are we ready?
It's 6 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Tim Cowley, Mayor of the Village of Millbrook, and this is the July 27th, 2022 meeting of the Village of Millbrook Board of Trustees. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sir, can you do the roll call for the trustees?
Mayor Coffey,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Contino,
Here.
Trustee Herzog,
Here.
Trustee Arbogast,
Here.
Trustee Doro.
Here.
Okay, thank you. All right, portrayed is the agenda for tonight, and by the way, for those online, these charts are posted on our website under the meeting docs section of our front page, so you can follow along. The two main topics for tonight's meeting is just one, a presentation by Delaware Engineering regarding a proposal for upgrading a wastewater treatment plant. And the second thing is a discussion regarding a request for a sewer hookup by a non-village resident. But before that, there's a couple of administrative I want to take care of. The first one is a workday resolution, standard workday resolution. Sarah, can you explain to us?
Yes, this is for retirement for Karen McLaughlin for her time here that she does with the village. So it goes towards her retirement.
Is this an annual thing we do?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it goes with her term, and I think we did like 2 years or something. So
Is that right? Okay,
yeah.
fine. Any questions about this? No, I'd like to make a motion that we accept this resolution for standard workday.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks. You'll take care of
Yep.
sign it. And just to let you know, there are a couple of invoices I wanted to send around for the trustees to approve. Evidently, we missed the folders with M&N last month. I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
And most significantly is the one for the monthly payment to NDP, which is a $33,000 bill. So I'd like to get the trustees to review and sign this off. Can I get a motion to approve these invoices that are residual from last month? In a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll pass this over. You can sign that cover sheet if you want to look at the details included. And then the last administrative I want to talk about is a discussion about whether we should put a smoking ban in place for village premises and village property. This is something that happened that we were trying to control the cigarette butts around the village hall with a one of those things are called those stack things,
Yeah, receptacle.
and they're not being used very well, to say the least. And there's just cigarette butts all over the front yard of the village hall. And the county had passed a resolution, I think last year or the year before,
Yeah.
to have no smoking on all county premises and in county vehicles. And I'd like to know if the board's willing for us to bring next month a resolution to do the same thing for the village property and vehicles.
I would support that.
Any issues with that?
No.
No.
All right. What I'll do is I'll send out a memo to the appropriate department heads, including VRI, and make sure they've got no issues with it. And barring that, I'll bring a resolution to the board meeting next month. All right? Okay, good. Well, the last thing is at the next board meeting, August 10th, we'll be discussing the fire department sign. And as far as an attempt to get more feedback, Sarah had suggested that we put on our Facebook page a survey.
Like a
You want to
poll.
describe that?
Yeah.
We did this in the past. you
Just
said.
like a one question poll, and just see we have a lot of people on Facebook and see.
Are you able to control or screen so we know who the feedback is coming from? Village residents, town residents, and others?
I don't believe so. I believe
No?
it would just be just a general whoever's on our page.
We did this in the past when?
When we were looking into doing the Hometown Heroes
Yeah, okay.
banners.
All right.
Yeah. And it got really good feedback.
Okay.
We had it open for a long time though, so
I'm kind of concerned about being able to understand where the feedback's coming from. But what's the rest of the board think?
Well, it would tell us who it was coming from, just not whether they lived in the village or town, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a general feel of how.
No, she's asking the ID of the person who responded would be there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but we wouldn't know that that ID was someone we knew or didn't know.
Could you put like a question like village resident, town resident, you know?
we could. We could do a poll
neither, and then, you know, do you agree with the sign or not? That way we sort of know. You could ask more than one question.
Yeah, we can certainly do
And
that.
maybe, you know, can you put it like where if they don't click one of those, they can't answer the next one? I know some surveys, you know, you have to.
I'll see how it works. We've only done the one, so Nicole's really our resident expert at that stuff. But yeah, we can certainly hone it in more.
All right, so does the board want to do this or not? This is my question.
Who's going to be wording this question?
We can. It would be any one of us.
You want to draft a wording and
Yeah, sure.
throw it by the board? How's that?
That makes sense, then we can all look at it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, so the board is in agreement? All right, fine. So you and Nicole will send out to the board a draft
Yeah,
recommendation of
we'll
wording?
see what we can do on Facebook itself, and then
Yeah, okay, fine.
we'll base it on that.
All right, so once we've reviewed it and the board approves, agrees to email,
Mm-hmm.
then we can send it out. How's that? All right, good. All right, so let's get to the main topics for tonight. So the next topic is the wastewater treatment plant upgrade proposal. And we have with us tonight, we have Robert Flores, we have Bill Bright, and we have James, last name?
Cavalier.
Cavalier. And they are here to present a proposal to us for a wastewater treatment plant. So who's going to make the presentation? Robert?
Come around to the camera.
So Sarah, where should Robert stand to make the presentation?
I mean, I could just turn the camera if
You want to
it's
just
better
stay
there.
there or stand there? You want to be at the chart?
Well, so you guys can obviously see the graphs with people online be able to see what. That's what.
Yeah, well, they don't follow the graphs online. Maybe
Yeah.
you want to go to the chart and point to it?
Yeah, just in
That'd be
case.
fine.
Just always have need to point.
Yeah, sure. All right.
All right, so I'm Robert Flores with Delaware Engineering, and so what we're going to talk about today is you have a wastewater plant that was built around 1971. It has multiple needs, and most recently around 2013-14, there was a significant effort to upgrade the plant at that point, create a project, but all the other priorities, took precedent, so that got pushed to the back. We've upgraded the water plant since then, and now we're back at the wastewater plant. And of course, the needs are still there. Needs are probably more, it's been several years, so the needs have grown.
How much was done back in 2013, 2014?
So there was the planning effort, and then there was some improvements.
Yeah, we
Bill
did.
can speak to it.
We did a dechlorination process. So the flows used to be just disinfected with chlorine. So we had the permit change. So the permit required us to remove the chlorine and add oxygen. So the project was installing a new tank. So now the flow goes from the chlorine contact tank to the dechlored tank, which is aerated, and then out to the stream. So
Okay. All right.
So the other significant factor right now is we're in the process of renewing your Speedies permit. That's your permit that allows discharge to the waste, your treated wastewater to the stream. And so there's some drivers to this project. The regulatory requirements, and their useful life. Equipment has been in operation for a long time. So some things that are just outdated, require a lot of manual work to make them keep them operational. Then there's some things that recommended just to improve operations and improve water quality. And we'll get into the details. But does anybody have any questions to start off with? I have a nice picture of the wastewater plant. I don't know if it shows up too green here or not, but I don't know how many people have been there. Your wastewater.
it's still over tour.
Yeah. Your wastewater, all the village wastewater ends up down here, bottom of the hill, right? That's Stanford Road. goes through what we call headworks, and we'll get into much more detail.
Okay,
There's a pump station, pumps it back to this tank, then it flows back again, goes through aeration, clarifiers, sand filters, and the chlorination that Bill was talking about.
okay.
Just some quick stats for everybody. Your sewer system, you got the entire village and a small portion of the town, right? The capacity of the wastewater plant is 250,000 gallons a day, built around 1971. Questions? So, like I discussed earlier, there's some drivers to this project, besides the fact that the plant is getting to be 50 plus years old, right? One of the things that happens today is during your high flows, you're allowed to bypass treatment. And you don't bypass a treatment entirely, because it goes through here, it goes through headworks, it gets pumped to this tank, and then from this tank, which is the acronym is overflow retention facility. From there, it goes to chlorination and out to the river. So it bypasses what we call secondary treatment, which is really where the main purpose of a wastewater plant. It's like when the Clean Water Act was passed in 1972, they mandated that secondary treatment be installed in all wastewater plants, right? And then you have sand filters to polish the wastewater treatment after that.
So the speedies permit only allows us to put 250,000 gallons through the biological process. The reason for that is that's all it's designed for. And if you put more through, you'll blow out the bacteria that's in there that we use to treat the wastewater. So we're flow limited to that 250,000 gallons. That's why the ORF was constructed in the mid-90s to retain the solids.
So that bypass system is no longer allowed, right? So it's not, when it was 20 years ago, it's no longer.
There's only one other one in New York State.
Oh, is that right? Okay. So this is grandfathered in,
Right.
right?
At the time it was built, it was perfectly acceptable.
I see.
It is no longer allowed by Speedy's law.
And this happens during like heavy rainfall.
When you have high flows. So that's the other thing is, for how many years, Bill? You've been doing I&I reduction?
Since 2008? 2009?
Yeah. So the village has diligently been removing I&I, extra inflow rainwater from the sewer system.
Mm-hmm.
And then an engineering report, this chart that shows you a downward trend. So when this was built, that was probably the best choice available, right? But because you've been removing so much I&I over the years, we have better options. We can with an upgrade, we can treat all the wastewater and not bypass it.
So eliminate the ORF.
Right.
Is one of the proposals.
Plus the steel, the ORF needs to be taken down and rehab because it leaks. There's pinholes in it. The steel is structurally sound, but there's a whole bunch of pinholes coming, and that's just from the acid. The coating has worn off,
Okay.
and the steel is right against the sludge, and sludge is very acidic, and it just burns holes in it, and so regardless of anything, we have to the ORF needs to be.
It has to be maintained and cleaned, which,
Yeah. All right. So it's a maintenance issue.
So
as well.
one other regulation that has changed significantly since 2013 to now is the way you disinfect your wastewater. Before it used to be that you had to all facilities had to treat during a 10-year flood and not be damaged during the 100-year flood. So now the regulation is you have to treat during the 100-year flood. So down here, your chlorine contact tank, if you look at an engineering report has it, the 100-year flood map for the area, it sneaks in and out like that.
Oh, is that right?
Perfectly where the chlorine contact tank, which makes sense because that's, the wastewater all steps downhill and that's the lowest spot. So we got to modify that so that we can treat during the flood event, not just survive the flood event.
I see.
So what kind of deadlines are we facing?
So right now, we submitted for a new speedies permit, and we've been going to the comment, reviews with the DEC, but you haven't received unless you know, Scott, no? You haven't received your draft new permit, and then they'll have a public comment period,
Gotta be,
right?
it's gotta be soon, because it's due in, I believe, September.
Yeah.
But COVID really put
Yeah.
the brakes on it, and it just stopped.
So when you get that permit, and this has happened to you in the past, you'll have conditions, right? So we expect the conditions in there will be a plan to eliminate the overflow.
Oh, is that right?
So then it'll become
We'll
enforceable,
repurpose the tank.
right, to work. I mean, we know it's coming, so that's what we're planning ahead of time.
I
right?
see, okay.
Yeah.
So the current speed permit doesn't have that condition in it? It's gonna be a-
The current speedies permit allows you to do exactly what you do.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I see.
So there's no, you're in compliance, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But the regulation itself doesn't impose any sort of deadline.
Right. It's regulated through your speedies permit, which gets renewed every 5 years. And sometimes during the 5-year period, they call it administrative renewal. So all it is sign here and get another 5 years. But this time you're going through the full 9 yards, which they call a technical review. And so that's why it's taking longer. And that's what we're waiting for. Yep.
Is one of the things that we have to not be, I don't say worried about, but be aware of, is that we just completed, we didn't do it personally, but the DEC just completed a 9-element plan review of the entire Wappingers Creek area and its impact on Wappingers Lake at the bottom of the water system.
Right.
And I know that we have been excused from having any kind of limitation on how much phosphorus that might, through the process, might be coming out of not so much our tank, but just by nature of what's there, contributing to what's happening at the end.
Right.
And I know that from reading that final report, their recommendation is going to be that we have limits placed on us for the amount of phosphorus that we can contribute. Now, I also know that
Well, we proactively purchased the filter that we're gonna use in the upgrade.
The dyno filter?
Yeah, and with chemical addition, they do a real good job at reducing phosphorus.
So
We've done many tests on our treatment plant where you take an upstream sample and a downstream sample, and we do not add any phosphorus to the stream. The wastewater plant doesn't add any. We've done enough testing to prove that.
the DEC goes by a different formula and looks at your total load of what you are processing and then assumes in that total load you will have X percentage of phosphorus.
So Scott, you sample for phosphorus, right?
We did upstream and down.
Yeah, and so the speedies permit, instead of having a limit, it's just monitor. So basically they're collecting data on you, right, which is part of the study. And when they publish this draft speedies permit, it may or may not have phosphorus limits. But during that comment period, people are allowed to say, I think they should have a phosphorus limit. And then the DEC could take that into consideration. And so I had a project for that exact scenario happen. Yeah. So that's very possible. So the other thing that's very possible is your ammonia limits could get more stricter, right? So all these are likely to happen. So
All right, but as far as Vicky was asking about, there's no date, there's no end date we have in front of us?
right. So we're
right
waiting
now.
for that speedies permit.
Okay, so not yet?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is schematic. It's a little blurry on the screen, but it shows how the process flows through the wastewater plant.
So this is the current one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if anybody has any specific questions, we'll just skip through it. But, okay.
Okay.
I think it's important to understand that 100% of the flow is pumped into the ORF tank. And then a percentage of that is returned to the treatment process, and it's controlled by a valve. So we let a set amount go forward, and then what happens is the tank level goes up and down based on the amount of flow that's fed into it.
I didn't realize that everything went through that. And what's this 4,000? That's
the volume of the tank.
The tank? Okay. And those two tanks, so that one of those tanks is used for this, the other tank is
Empty, right?
Empty.
empty? Okay. All right.
So here's some various pictures of the actual wastewater plant, and kind of shows you the vintage 1970s work there. So the wastewater comes in, right, and I don't hope the picture does it justice, but there's a bar rack here, right? What is it, inch opening? It's kind of roughly. So this is in the outdoors, open channel. This is your raw sewage coming in, and so rags and whatever sticks and everything else that gets flushed gets
Anything bigger than an inch gets caught.
caught in there, right? Yeah. So then Scott and his guys have to rake it by hand, right? Put it in a bucket, and of course, it's not like they can do it continuously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I gets raked a couple times a day, right?
Really?
And then after it gets past this one, there's a flow meter, then there's another rake, right? So you have a second chance of catching stuff. But what happens, what's different than 1970 versus today, is people are flushing a lot more stuff. The flushable wipes that you're not supposed to flush, and a lot of stuff like it. So there's a lot more things being flushed. So it makes this a lot more, it makes the job harder. And things get put by the bar rack,
Okay.
and then they clog the pumps, and then it causes,
They clog the diffusers,
causes
they clog
alarms,
the
and
circuits.
people have to come out in the middle of the night and fix things,
All right.
things that overflow. So these are, so it goes through here, flow meter, and these are the pumps. I know it's kind of hard to tell, but these are the pumps that are pumping to that overf tank they were talking about, right? So these, whatever gets past here, if it clogs these, now you got a crisis you got to respond to, right? You can see this. I don't know if this picture does it justice. But you got a lot of old pipes, a lot of old valves. So they're outside, not inside a building. So they're insulated, trying to keep it from freezing. So all this today we're proposing to put it indoors, right? So that's going to help with odors, and so we mechanical screen, smaller size, they'll capture more of the rags, to be able, mechanically rake, all day long, basically. Prevent things from clogging. Clogging is the number one thing in a wastewater plant. So, good headworks, it prevents things from clogging. Is worth its weight in gold.
So so the size of the headworks is going to be such that it handles 100% of your flow. We're still not going to put 100% of the flow through the treatment plant. We're only going to we'll put 500,000, we're going to double the capacity of the treatment plant.
Oh, is that right?
We're going to go from 250 to 500,000. Anything else you're not going to have an ORF anymore. So that's going to bypass and go down to what once was your sand filters. We're going to repurpose them into wetlands.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So the technicality, but the important one, is that your average day flow, which is what your speedy permit is, will remain the same. We'll be able to treat the peak flow without the oil.
So peak flow is going to double.
Right. You'll be able to treat.
Three peak flow capacities.
Yeah.
The peak flow capacity is going to go. And we have to prove. That's it. We're going to pull this ORF out and stop using it, right? So what it's designed to do, we have to come up with something else to do what that's designed to do, and not bypass raw sewage out of the stream anymore.
Right.
That's where the wetlands.
So where those spider things are today, you're going to convert that to
We're going to put a berm around them, about a 5 or 6 foot berm, and they'll still be divided.
I think the next set of pictures shows those sand filters you're talking about.
Fine.
And yeah, there they are. And
Yeah, there they are. Right.
and they'll become wetland, and wetland treatment is considered secondary treatment. So we'll be in full compliance with that.
So the whatever overflows is going to go in there and just sit there. And just
It'll sit there, and the it's a different type of bacteria than what we use in the wastewater plant, but it still will be a biological treatment.
Okay, but it won't ever go. You're not going to bring it back and process it through. Just
Well, no, it's still going to act as a sand filter.
Okay.
We're just going to put plants and bacteria above it, so the treatment process will still take place. That it'll still go through the sand, It'll still drain into the chlorine contact tank, but it'll be,
Oh, I
it'll
see.
be crystal clear now.
Okay.
It won't be primary effluent anymore.
Right, so it's once through instead of, round,
Yeah,
going
okay.
around and around. So again, so this is a picture of the tanks,
Mhm.
that we're trying to move. Here's a picture of the sludge drying beds. It's a picture of the chlorine contact tank. There's a picture of their clarifiers. We're going to improve. One of the improvements is that with the clarifier, after aeration, the water's, as the name implies, you're letting the sludge settle, and you're getting the cleaner water going through, right? But you also have stuff that floats to the top.
Mhm.
That's a picture of what's happening here. So all this fat and grease that's floating on top, we need to do a better job of capturing that, right? And that's part of the upgrades to the clarifiers.
The 2 existing clarifiers will be upgraded, and we'll add 1 new clarifier, which will be equal to, 1 new clarifier will be equal to the flow capacity of the 2 existing clarifiers.
All right. It just sounds like you're gonna redo the whole thing. That's what it sounds like.
So one thing to say, there's a lot of improvements throughout every piece, right?
Yeah.
And again, it needs it because it's 50 years old. But we're saving money in that a lot of the concrete tanks that are in the ground, we're going to reuse them instead
Okay.
of demoing and starting over.
All right.
Because if you demo and start over, you're talking 3 times the cost, right?
Yeah, okay.
So,
All right.
go ahead.
Before you go,
Yeah.
and maybe I misunderstood, why do we have a wetland decontaminating and then the more classic approach?
So you'll have
some-
you'll have 90% of the time the flows are under 250,000 gallons per day, and that'll get your traditional treatment. So when the flows are higher than that, we'll have the wetland treatment to treat.
Yeah, for storm events, that's all the wetland will be for.
So it's a better way of doing overflow. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and the key is that any drop of water that goes through the plant will receive full secondary and tertiary treatment, right? As opposed to bypassing secondary treatment and going straight to disinfection.
Okay.
So normally, we're treating 100% only in
When
storm events.
when the flows are 250,000 gallons or less, the flow goes through the plant just
Which is
normalized.
the great majority of the time.
100%.
Yes. As soon once you get to that 250 number, anything over 250 goes through the ORF, overflows the ORF, goes down, gets chlorinated, and goes right out. It doesn't go through the biological process.
Yeah, well, it does that, but you also have like 200,000 gallons excess capacity, so if your flow is at 280, it's not going to overflow.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to sit in there and build up until it gets that point. Sometimes it doesn't reach that point.
That's right.
Because the flows start coming down and then we can push it.
Then you can work it off, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, what is it like? Rarely. Like we've gone years where we haven't discharged, right, out of the ORF, and with the storms we've been getting lately, 3, 4, 5 times a year we do it.
Okay.
So
Please, you're up.
So a copy of this is in the back, so that
Yeah.
you want to closely look at it. Anybody from the audience wants to closely look at it. As you can see, just about everything is colored, which means it's getting some form of upgrade, right? Whether it's replacing pipes, just a new the one that's the wholesale being improved and replaces the headworks building. But like the aeration tanks, we're talking keeping the tanks, but piping and valves, clarifiers, same thing, gutting them, new mechanical mechanisms. This is that new clarifier that we talked about, that circle. So this circle will have a same capacity as these two. And we got to raise this up a little bit so that it can be functioning during the flood. And we want to repurpose that tank so, sludge storage. Right now, one of the pictures was you have this barn, right?
Yeah.
So right now your sludge goes to this yellow tank, and then you pump it basically to the drying beds that are under that red building there, right?
Yeah.
So they sit there and it takes what it takes to dry, but also that's a source of odors, right? So an option is to dewater it mechanically, and then it doesn't have to sit there in the open air, right, all the time. So that's part of the improve operations as opposed to required.
Is the odor an issue for the neighbors, Scott?
What's that?
You get complaints about the odor from neighbors?
Not like I used to when I first started here.
I remember a few years ago I used to go up by there and it was a knock yourself out kind of a thing, but I don't recognize it anymore.
I'm doing a good job.
You must be. Yeah.
I walk this there all the time. And
You didn't even notice it, yeah.
So it's not certain times, like, is it worse certain times, like?
When it gets really hot and humid,
Oh, okay.
because it doesn't move and that odor just tends to hang in the air.
Which was last week, right? Anybody
Yeah.
go
I
by
was
this?
walking.
All right.
Anyway, so we touched upon a bunch of this already. Improve headworks, improve clarifier capacity, sand filter upgrades, disinfection for flood resiliency, repurposing the ORF tank.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that, so that thing's 40 feet tall, right? We're gonna make it 12 feet tall,
Oh, really?
and we're just gonna make it a sludge holding tank.
Oh.
There'll be an area of sludge holding tank.
So you remove the top of the tank?
Yep.
What
We'll
about the
we'll probably demo the other tank just to get
The other
rid of
tank, okay, I was gonna say, okay. All right,
With the next line here.
okay.
So this is the part that everybody cares about,
Yeah,
right?
right.
The money part. So we estimated all these upgrades to cost in round numbers $7 million. And there's a table here that breaks down kind of the major components.
Mhm.
And as we talked earlier, some of them are, improve like the headworks, improve, safety, operations, deal with the wipes and all that kind of stuff. Then there's improving upgrades that are required to get rid of the bypass, the flood resiliency aspects to it. There's some electrical stuff, generator, and then there's supporting stuff like chemical feed pumps, miscellaneous valves and piping that goes with everything. So that's the breakdown you got there in front of you.
And this is including the cost of keeping the plant running while you're doing this upgrade on how?
Exactly. So the
You
biggest
have to coordinate all these replacements.
right, because you still have to meet your permit during construction.
Right, okay.
So in this case, you have a plant that's really not shoehorned as much as other places. You have some of it, you have some space between the fence and the tanks and the fence and buildings. So it makes it doable.
And talk about the phasing the project as opposed to doing it all at once. I mean, is this thing work? All the things you've discussed sounds like they all need to be done.
Like I said, we've been talking, some of these items we've been discussing since 2013, right?
Yeah, it depends on the grant money and if we get the hardship zero interest loan. Sometimes it's better just to do everything if you've got the incentive. If you've got the grant money and you've got that zero interest loan,
Mm-hmm.
like the village of Fishkill, we got a zero interest loan. It's going to save $9 million
In interest.
I mean, so whereas if we phased it down there, we wouldn't take advantage of the $9 million.
So one of one of the concepts is that the grants are targeted to improving water quality, right? So because you have to do some things to improve water quality, like remove the bypass, if do it all as one project, you get those points,
I see.
right?
Okay.
If you phase it, the first phase, which improves water quality, gets all the points, and then the second and third phase, which are more operational and facility type upgrades, don't get any points,
So
right?
you lose the benefit.
I see.
And you might not get any grant money, low interest for loans for that. So that's the benefit of doing it all at once.
I also, if I understand it, looking at the way the WIA money is done, there's an overall cap. So if you phase it, it's not like you're gonna get more money. You
Right.
you get, if your project is $5 million, and right now the cap is.
So it used to be 3 million, but I believe they upped it to a bigger number.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's wastewater or just water
Yeah.
quality, but whatever.
Yeah.
If it's, you're only gonna get your $5 million, you'll
The 25%,
take
right?
that off, the 25%.
25% of whatever the
Whatever,
cap is. I see.
of the, whatever, the $7 million. So it doesn't really behoove you to stretch it out in hopes of getting a better deal.
Well, what opportunities are there to have multiple grants? Like you talk about a WIA grant. And WIA grant means what? It's
So water improvement,
Water infrastructure.
water
improvement.
infrastructure, there you go. Improvement Act.
And we
And
got
then
it
the
would be
CDBG.
25% of the cost and a 30-year interest-free loan for the rest.
Right. So that's the typical package.
Okay.
So, all these things go yearly cycles, and in these cycles we have a little bit more grants than in the past, and those grants are fully funded. So that's why now is the time to apply for stuff, right? For grants for your projects. So, for example, one of the things we want to consider today is seeker determination and bond resolution, because for the WEA program's been around since 2015, and it was always due at the end of November. Well, this year, when they announced it, they don't give you a lot of notice. It's due September 9th
Of this year.
of this year.
Yeah. Okay.
And that has nothing to do with the fact that there's a governor's election this year.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and so you have to do your bond resolution, and your 30-day permissive referendum has to have passed before you can apply, right? So even though it's September 9, it really makes it August 9, and so really, instead of waiting another year, that's why we're rushing, right? But then, so that's the WEA grant. We suspect there's going to be an application process for the bill money, the bipartisan infrastructure law, right?
Okay.
And there'll be, this project will be eligible for WQIP, Water Quality Improvement Grant, and so that'll be due.
So in addition, we could get a grant from both,
Exactly.
we as well as WQIP.
Yep. So basically,
And then there's also member money.
right.
So the Congress now has the right, each congressperson gets a certain amount of money to spread around their district. We have a project in Westchester County that was funded $1.8 million for PFOA removal, plus they got a $1.6 million WEA grant. So
All right.
there's money out there, and
Right. So you
It's just that we've got, money for the village right now to put on the table. We've put a reserve in place, and this is the second year. So we now have, with this year's contribution, $44,000 basically to put towards this thing, right? So I mean, is that enough for us to have a discussion about this, knowing that in the future we'll have to go talk about a bond to fund some portion of that $7 million?
Yeah, so that's the advantage of doing the bond resolution. It gives you the ability to do a ban for short-term costs.
But in the future, like we're not ready to do it now, right? In other words, can we do this bond resolution now for $7 million, knowing that we still need a path to show how we finance this in the future?
Right. So this is just to get you to an application, because it's not like you're not drawing from the bank the money, right?
Okay.
You're just you're passing this resolution, and it says what it says, but you're not cashing out.
All right. So yeah, when do we have to show money up front that says we're serious about this?
No, the resolution is what says to the applicant that you're serious.
Okay.
We have the legal ability and then some.
All right. Because I remember with the water filter upgrade, we had a resolution, I would say years before we actually started the process.
So the difference there is that what you weren't going to get through a WEA grant, you're gonna finance out of pocket.
Mhm.
So you have to have a resolution to say, okay, how are you gonna, where's that money coming from? And you had some reserves, and you had some short-term bond you were using, right? So here, the short answer is the difference is going to be financed, at least until something else better shows up, with a clean water SRF loan, right?
And that's what we're going for zero interest for.
Okay,
And if we get that, the upfront money to construct the band, we'll borrow it from them at zero interest.
okay, I guess I'm still not clear on that, how that works.
Yeah, it's like a building loan, right? So,
Yeah, it's a construction loan.
but that's anyway. That doesn't, you know,
All right,
there's layers to this stuff, right?
So rather than going to the bank and getting a band, they'll get it from EFC. They'll get it from Environmental Facilities Corporation.
I just don't want to pass the resolution that says, you know, we're gonna go for $7 million here when we have no way that we can see right now to fund it. All right, we're gonna try to get a WIA grant, we're gonna try to get a, you know, WQIP grant,
That's right.
we're gonna do a band sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Right, so we can think of a scenario we can get there, but right now,
But unless we get the grant, we can't go forward.
so we have to pass the bond resolution in order
To
to
apply
apply
for the grant,
grant.
to see if we get it.
Okay, so,
Right, and we don't have to go for a ban until post-award. We don't have to-
That's right.
okay, that's good,
Exactly.
all
There's
right,
no commitment
all right,
Yeah,
fine.
there's no
on our
commitment.
part.
That's what I want to do, I want to make sure
Yeah.
there's no commitment on our part.
Where you're not drawing from a band from the bank and start to draw interest, right?
Yeah, right, okay.
Right.
So that's in the future after we've gotten,
That's completely up to the board decision as to when you want to do that.
I see, okay,
That's a
fine,
completely legitimate question, and
all right, fine, all right, I feel better about that.
Because some of the you need that speedies permit in hand, right?
Yeah,
Because that might change the picture one way or another.
okay,
It might give you a schedule of compliance, or it might give you some limits that we haven't thought
all right,
about, right?
And you're competing with hundreds of other municipalities in New York State. What it says is Millbrook is serious,
okay,
right? So if someone else puts in an application but doesn't pass a bond resolution and doesn't take those steps that we're doing, they're not going to be considered. Where we might. It gives us
credibility at the table when we're trying to get these grants. Okay,
Exactly. So there's criteria of addressing water quality.
Yeah.
The criteria, readiness, and the way you demonstrate readiness to them is that you've got an engineering report, you've done a seeker, you've passed the bond resolution.
And in the end, really, this is about jobs. It's about water quality, but it's about putting people to work to do the work. And that's what they like in all these.
you mean that's the motivation for getting the grant, is
So
it shows,
See
okay,
how many, yeah.
Yeah, they don't, money's been appropriated, money's gotta go out. Because if it gets appropriated and not spent,
Yeah.
then
understand,
why are you doing it, right?
right.
So do we know yet, or offhand, how many jobs it will create, short-term jobs it will create to do this?
We could come up with a number, but yeah, exactly. So it'd be construction jobs and that kind of thing, and there's residual jobs from like manufacturing and what like that.
We were, in Fishkill, we were doing a project, and I don't know, we had like 60 people on the site a couple weeks back. Everybody's working on different, a lot of people go to work on these things.
Well,
that,
construction is the way to go.
Yeah, there was a lot of people on site, and it's 1 acre. So
Well, the reason why I want to get this process started is because, we've got to go through all these reviews, approvals for these grants, plus that there's a lead time to get all this stuff together and make it happen, right?
Right.
So we're talking about something that's going to be in the 2 to 6 year period kind of stuff. So we really need to start talking about this now. And I think that's why we should be passing this bond resolution thing. Tonight, right? That's really what we're trying to do?
Yeah, because you need the 30-day period for permissive referendum to run before the resolution actually
30
takes
days
effect.
to beat the September 9th, what is it? Oh, all right, so we need to do it tonight.
So it's
Yeah.
that-
Okay, all right. All right, anything else?
No, that's yep. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I originally had my hand up before because I know that from working with other municipalities in the Wappingers Creek watershed that has been mentioned to me on a number of occasions, especially the Wappinger Falls, that quality water improvement program was another avenue. on top of-
WQIP.
Yeah, WQIP, to be able to go ahead and get funds. And matter of fact, 2.5, 3 years ago, when you guys went out and looked for the diner filters, and I informed the other people who I was working with that when we were doing that, they were flabbergasted. They were like, "You're going out and purchase this product? Why the hell aren't you putting in for a quick grant?" Because that's exactly what it's designed for. And I said, "Because we're getting it used, and we're going, and we want to get it not through the normal, bidding channels and
Yeah.
everything else." And they were like, "Well, good
We
luck."
saved
but-
$250,000 by doing that.
Is that right?
But I know that's, I wasn't sure how the two dovetail between the.
Well, we're gonna make an application for WQIP, but that would be.
But that
next year.
sand filter you bought, like you're saying, because you went through a different procurement process, is not an eligible cost.
But the upgrade of it is.
Right, but in the physical installation and using it in the upgrade, that's eligible cost.
Okay,
But the purchasing of the
which we
equipment
did years
itself,
ago, right?
this, so you purchased it out of pocket, and by doing so, you save a chunk of money, right?
Does that give us credit by saying, look what we did, we purchased this 3
Well,
years ago?
to your taxpayers, it gives you credit, right? But,
I just meant
Yeah.
in the application process and the score you get by each of the points of things you've done or haven't done or whatever.
yeah, like it goes towards the readiness, right? That, this is a project that's actually gonna happen, not,
Yeah, okay.
just another application, right?
All right, so anything else for Robert before we talk about these resolutions? No? Anybody in the public, any questions? All right, so then let's talk about these resolutions. And Ian, can you lead us through this?
Yeah.
We all got copies of this?
So the first resolution the board should consider is the seeker resolution.
Okay,
And this is a resolution that just says that you're considering these upgrades, or that's the project that you want to engage in is the improvements and upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. What you're doing is essentially replacing what's already there in existence. And under the seeker regulations, that's considered a type 2 action. Just means that it's not, there's a presumption that it won't have any adverse environmental impact, and therefore it is exempt from environmental review.
okay.
And that's what this resolution says. You should do this before you adopt your bond resolution, just to make it clear that you're not required to engage in environmental review. So if you want, I can read through the resolution.
Can you just read the highlights, or?
Yeah,
Read the whole thing.
Village of Millbrook has established a public benefit to the village residents and sewer users of upgrades to the municipal wastewater treatment plant, whereas the proposed project includes rehabilitation and upgrade of the existing equipment at the wastewater treatment plant, whereas 6 NCRR Part 617.5 C2 states that replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of a structure, facility in kind on the same site, including upgrades to buildings to meet building or fire codes, unless such action meets or exceeds any of the thresholds of section 617.4 of this part, which this does not, has been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment and are precluded from environmental review under the Environmental Conservation Law, Article 8. Whereas the project does not meet or exceed any of the thresholds of 617.4, now therefore the board, or be it resolved in consideration of the foregoing, Village Board of the Village of Millbrook hereby finds that the project is a type 2 action and is not subject to review under seeker, and this resolution shall take effect immediately. And I would just need a
I'll make the motion.
motion and a second,
I'll second.
and then a roll call vote.
Mayor Calabi,
Aye.
Trustee Contino,
Aye.
Trustee Herzog,
Aye.
Trustee Arbogast,
Aye.
and Trustee Dora.
Alright,
Okay,
Okay. So that is approved.
all right.
And then the next, would be the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project board resolution for WIA funding application. And this is just authorizing the board to make the application and authorizes the mayor to sign any documents necessary for the grant.
That's this one right here.
No,
No?
it's similar in length to the seeker resolution. It just says WWTP upgrade project board resolution via funding application.
I don't have that. You guys got that one?
I thought it was the signature for grant application.
No, the board doesn't do anything. That's for the mayor to
Authorizing the
sign
mayor.
after this is
Okay.
adopted.
I don't have that one.
Did I not send it?
I don't think.
I can read it and the board can.
Okay, go ahead, read.
Okay. Whereas Village of Millbrook has established the public benefit of the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project, and whereas the project includes rehabilitation and upgrade of the existing equipment at the wastewater treatment plant, and whereas Village has the opportunity to apply for grant funds from the New York State Water Infrastructure Improvement Act, WIA, which may fund up to $25 million or 25% of the total project cost. And whereas the total project cost is estimated at $7 million, and whereas the village is prepared to contribute matching funds through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program, and now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Millbrook is authorized to submit the WIA grant application. The village mayor is authorized to sign the WIA grant application, and the village agrees to provide the matching funds required for the WIA project through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program. And we just need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
And then roll call.
Okay. Mayor Calabi,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Contino,
Aye.
Trustee Herzog,
Aye.
Trustee Arbogast,
Aye.
and Trustee Dora.
aye.
And then the next would be the bond resolution. And do you know what resolution number this is?
Yes, this is 8
This
of
one's 8.
2022.
Okay. So this will be Resolution 8 of 2022. It's your bond resolution authorizing the issuance of serial bonds of the Village of Millbrook in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $7 million pursuant to the local finance law to finance wastewater treatment plant upgrades and improvements in the Village of Millbrook, providing that this resolution shall be subject to permissive referendum, delegating certain powers in connection therewith to the village treasurer. So this is a longer resolution that pretty much summarizes it. It's authorizing the village to issue up to, but not to exceed $7 million in serial bonds to fund the project, which is the upgrades and improvements to the wastewater treatment plant. You are authorizing the village treasurer to sign any document, sign the bond or any bands that you want to issue before issuing the bonds.
All right, so can we just ask the trustees to just take a look through it? I don't want you to read the whole thing, but if you all want to scan through it, I do see on the back, on the second page, it says it's going to be published at least once in the Millbrook News,
Well,
the official newspaper.
it's a bond resolution.
It's a militant news, I guess.
So there are two things. It's subject to permissive referendum. So the notice of permissive referendum has to be published in the official paper. And then we also do what's called an estoppel notice. And that essentially shortens the statute of limitations on any challenge to the bond resolution. So just good practice to
Is
do
that
that.
included in here too?
It is mentioned in here, and I
Okay.
prepared both the
Yes, I have
notice
those.
of permissive referendum and the estoppel notice. I think I
Yes.
sent it
Yep.
to you.
So Sarah, do we want to change that from the Millbrook News to what was the Northern News?
Poughkeepsie Journal.
Poughkeepsie Journal?
Yeah.
So can you just do a pen over right there?
I
Oh,
can,
it
I
should
can
say
correct it.
Poughkeepsie Journal.
Yeah.
The journal's in section 4.
Yeah, it's on the
Yeah, for
second
section
one.
12, it's got Northern News.
Oh, okay.
I
Any
can
other
change it.
questions from the trustees about this? No? All right, so can you just go straight to roll call, or need a motion?
You need a motion to adopt the
I'll make a
bond
motion that we adopt
resolution.
this resolution.
Second.
Mayor Cosby,
Aye.
Trustee Herzog,
Aye.
Trustee Cantino,
Aye.
Trustee Arbogast, and Trustee Dora.
Aye.
Okay.
And that's it. Then the other documents,
I can just sign myself.
yes.
One is the certification that we own title to the site. And the other
Correct.
is just this signature for a grant application.
Yeah, there's an application itself.
And we have a whole staff in Albany that all they do is this stuff. And, you know, Lindsay and Mary and,
They have my sympathy. Okay, anything else we need to cover for the,
No, that's it. And
All
I guess I've already provided the notices that have to be published in the paper. The period for permissive referendum is 30 days, assuming that you don't get anyone submitting a petition within the 30-day period. The resolution will then take effect.
okay,
Okay.
congratulations.
nice job, Robert.
You made
Thank you so
Scott
much.
stay.
Well, I
He's been here since 2000, waiting for this night, so.
know. He's got a long road to hoe between now and when he can say thank you. But good job, guys. Thanks a lot.
And so you're familiar with all this, but proof of publication and all that, we'll need for that. Okay.
Will do.
Okay, good. Now let's go to the next topic of discussion, which is Lisa's application for a hookup to the sewer system. So first I wanted Scott to start off the discussion, which is what is the potential number of people who could come in and request for a hookup that are outside of the village?
Well, there's only like maybe 15 places that, well, actually, it's probably closer to 20 with the lots over on Maple Hill.
Yeah, so going outside the village, because within the village is a different discussion, right? That's basically, we want to provide to those people.
You're just
And
talking
outside. Following the sewer lines we have today, or the one sewer line we have going outside, you estimate that no more than 15
15, well, maybe 20.
conservatively.
Yeah. Probably 20, say 20 to 30. I didn't bring that stuff with me, so.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Been riding around all day. So.
all right. I'd like to know what the upper bound is.
I mean, I did provide all that stuff to you months ago, so when you asked. So.
If it's 25, I mean, the flow is, it's still under 15,000 gallons, well under your average daily flow. Your average daily flows are, you have in the report actually. they, in the 150 range?
Yeah.
Yeah, so your average daily flows are 150. So you add another 15,000, so you're 165. It's your average, your permit is 250.
Mhm.
So you have the capacity.
If you hook all 30 of them up.
If you hooked all 30 of them, you have the capacity. You also,
Assuming they're single-family homes.
assuming they're single-family homes.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And I calculated 4 bedrooms, so it's 110 gallons a bedroom. That's the standard. That's the DEC standard.
Mhm.
And the other thing that it does is it lowers the O&M costs for everyone. But the more users you put on the system, the the lower the spread the costs out and the capital costs. The town rate is higher than the village rate, that's the way all of our village clients, that's how they do it. So, and the hookup fee is based on replacement cost.
Before we go there, though, let's talk about what we want. So again, we're only talking sewer, we're not talking water.
Yep.
So is there any objection from the board about allowing this to be something we could go forward with? In other words, that if we set this precedent, and in the future we're willing to accept up to the number that are available, potential up to another 30 people coming forward.
So what the way it's done normally is you look at how many people are not connected that live in the village, okay? And it's basically 9 Partners Road, right?
Yeah.
Wait, 9 partners, well,
Yeah, so if we made a decision to sewer 9 partners,
You got Linden Lane, Linden Court. Yeah, there is a sewer line. Only 2 people are hooked up. But Linden Lane.
Yeah.
And 9 partners.
I mean, 9 partners, it's not a lot of houses, right? 20 at the most. What you want to do is you want to leave enough reserve capacity at the plant to handle the people that live in the village that aren't connected, all right? So at 165, which is the number with those, if those 20 were to connect, you still have 35,000 plus another 35,000, because we have the way you calculate flow, the permit's 250,000 gallons a day, but DEC will not let you connect any customers after you hit 95% of your permit. So it's like 237 is the number.
okay.
So you have 37,000 plus 35. So you have over 60,000 gallons of excess capacity after you hook up those 20 homes. So as long as we continue to do the annual I&I reduction, which we have to keep doing, you have the capacity. You might as well get more customers.
Let me just play it back. Capacity, we run today at 150K. If we added those 20, worst case scenario in Linden, that would go to 165.
Yeah.
And that would leave us 237 minus 165, or an additional 70K available capacity.
So just divide that by 110. That'll tell you how many bedrooms have the excess capacity you have. It's a lot.
Okay.
You have, 30-some properties today that are outside the village connected, right?
They're connected already?
Yeah,
No, I think more than that.
more than that.
Maple Hill, County Road.
When we
and
do
the,
our SBA, it's probably about 40.
Yeah, that sounds more
About
like
40?
Yeah.
Okay.
25 times is 11. Yeah, so 50. So at 150 plus 15 is 165. So 35 and 37 is 67,000 gallons. Divided by 110. 609 bedrooms of excess
Okay,
capacity.
that's available. So does the board have any problem with us making it available in the future for people coming forward to ask to have their sewer hooked up? If they're within a certain line.
would just like this, I don't have a problem with that, as long as we stipulate that it's only single-family homes.
Okay,
I don't know if there are others that might be eligible, but I think we should stipulate.
that's a good idea to
Well,
stipulate that.
Single-
And the other thing you could say is, as long as the property is sewered, as long as there's a sewer main in front of it. Okay?
Well, as
And
long
you're not
as it's-
extending the mains
As
out
long
to
as there's
the
sewer line
other,
nearby.
get to a major subdivision or something. It's just those lots that are already sewered.
Yeah, I think that's an important clarification for me because we are not that far away from other suburban developments that are already established. When you think about, you've got Rodrigo Knolls,
Mhm.
fairly close to where the sewer line already is. You've got other ones that, that are nearby, Daytop Village and places like that. They have the capacity to say, well, we just have to run X amount of sewer line and we're right there. So I think existing sewer line compacted is an important.
So how would you specify that, so within,
I would say that we're gonna, we will allow connections within the town that are already served by a main sewer as of this date.
when you say already served, within 100 feet or 50 feet or
Well,
what?
the sewer passes
by their
by
property.
the parcel, right?
Yeah.
If their parcel is adjacent to the sewer main.
All right,
That's generally what people accept as, available, sewer's available, right?
So all they gotta do to hook up is run their sewer lateral and connect to the main.
all right, now we should put this all into a resolution, we'll probably bring back to the board next month, right? So any other stipulations we should have in such a resolution?
Is it accurate to say that this is still an application by application process? So we're not really setting precedent by allowing anyone to come in now. It's going forward. It's still
Yeah, I would say it's by
it's
application.
still within our purview.
I think you have the right to say no to anything outside of
Yeah.
the village connect. I think it's a case by case basis. They can always sue. They can sue you whether you,
Sure,
no matter what you do, you can get sued. So
so stipulations requires the board approval by individual applications, something like
And
that?
that's already true now, isn't it? 'Cause that's why we're here.
Yeah, for outside.
Outside the
Oh,
village,
yeah, you're right, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'd be nervous about it.
yeah,
why
if you're
not
in the
special-
village, I think you have a
specify
right
that?
to connect.
Huh?
If you're in the village, you have a right to connect.
Yeah, right. Actually, we encourage. What's wrong with putting in requires board approval by individual application?
When you go, you look at the nursing home that we had an issue there.
Yeah,
That was a
right.
health hazard. We had sewer running down the road
Sure.
for, that was the right decision then.
All right, so the board is okay with this, the idea of making this available?
As long as we're talking about sewer and not water.
We're only talking sewer.
Yeah, because
All right, so
that's
that-
the one thing I wouldn't compromise on. We do not give away your water rights.
Okay, fine. Then let's talk about what rates we should charge. I don't think we should charge the standard rate we charge for in village person.
No, the towns you already have a sewer rate established in the town.
Yeah,
So I think you charge that rate.
what about for the hookup?
I think you charge the hookup fee based on the replacement cost on the formula that I set up for
And so
you.
what's the formula?
I
to
think it's
do that?
$15 a gallon. It's in the email I sent you. I think it's $15 a gallon.
$50 a gallon, right?
15.
15.
Yeah, and it's 110 gallons per bedroom. So if it's a 3-bedroom, it's
Times the number of bedrooms. So it's $15 times 110 gallons per bedroom times the number of bedrooms. So for a 3-bedroom house,
Yeah.
it would be whatever 45 times 110 is. Something like that?
4,950 for a 3-bedroom. Yeah, it's a 3-bedrooms. Yeah. So it's 110. If it's a 4-bedroom times 4, that's 440 gallons, right? Times 15.
Mhm.
So it's
That's not bad.
That's not bad. Yeah, 450 times 15 $67.50 for a 4-bedroom. And that's cheap, because you have to put a septic system in.
The septic system, right.
$45,000, $50,000, so.
Does the board agree with that calculation?
I think if the law, that's what we charge. I believe that's the same calculation we charge when we approve having the one residential property on Maple,
Right.
Maple Manor
Yeah.
already, and that we should be consistent with
Okay.
that.
And that is subject to change, because things go up.
Well, as the rates change for the sewer
Yeah.
costs, yeah. Oh, yeah, so what, that one is, that's assuming both water and sewer, we're talking water.
You're only talking sewer right now.
Yeah, so it's, yeah. So Lisa, any questions or comments?
No, so it's just based, I have to let you know what the plan is, but I need to submit the final plan and then
Oh, well, that's the other thing. I mean, in the resolution, our recommendation is that the connection has to be designed by a professional engineer, has to be approved by the health department and the town. And we should, the village should observe the installation and make sure it's installed as designed, and make sure it gets certified by their engineer.
Now, I think you already sent me those words, right?
Yes.
So I'll get those incorporated. All right.
And that's the same protocol with the tap already on the property?
Excuse me?
It's the same protocol with the tap on the property already?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright.
All right, so what I'll do is I'll send these details to Ian, and actually make a resolution, we can then review and approve for the next board meeting.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions from the board on that? Okay, Lisa?
Yeah.
All right. All right, any other public comments? Any board member comments? Anything else we want to discuss? I'd like to keep it relatively short if we can, but anything else we want to discuss? We're going to go into executive session after this to talk about the contract with T-Mobile. Anything other than that you want to discuss? Okay, then, what do I do to go into executive session? I want to clear the room.
Yeah.
Or
We'll pause, clear the room.
pause,
and
clear the
then-
room. Thank you very much. Nice job, guys. Appreciate
Anybody
you.
has questions, call me, send me an email.
You know how to get all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Lisa.